25% of the people working on Wall Street in the financial services industry admitted to routinely engaging in fraud and went so far as to say that if the fraud were to stop, Wall Street would collapse immediately. They are so far down on all of this, having to manipulate and having to game the system. Wall Street doesn't manufacture anything. They don't make any products. They've taken money and made money the product, and they just shake it around a lot and hope that it's going to grow. And they basically design the system so that money flows to them and the losses flow to the American people, which, by the way, is a good definition of a fascist economic state.
The next two questions are on investing, and the first one is from Ben. What is a good first-time portfolio?
I am not a financial planner, and I am not an investor. If you were to look at my own bank account, you would understand that I should not be offering financial information to anybody. At the moment, though, if I were to offer a recommendation, it would be to be concerned about wealth preservation rather than trying to find a stock that is going to grow rapidly. Obviously, stay away from Facebook. Right now, we're starting to see increasing inflation. A lot of it is very covert. And so anybody who's got any extra money, I would definitely say go into silver and gold. We know that those metals are being manipulated to drive the price downward in order to keep people in the stock market and in the banks. But there's going to come a point where they can't manipulate the silver and gold prices any longer because the governments and the banks are running out of gold and silver to dump on the market in order to keep those prices down. At some point, as the hyperinflation takes hold, the gold and silver really will take off. And even if it doesn't, even if it just holds its value, you're still going to be doing better than if you have a bunch of paper notes buried in a mayonnaise jar out back.
Yeah, definitely. And the next question is from a listener, and it's kind of long, but they write, my question is about my 401k holding of approximately $18,000. They are in CEF and GTU, both Canadian-held ETFs, where they hold physical possession backed by metals. I would like Mike's opinion about the security of holding these versus taking out a loan on my 401k and just buying the metals to hold myself. Additionally, I am 62 years old and thinking of retiring in 6 months and just taking my Social Security checks while I can. Does Mike think it better to do that or keep working and feed the system?
Boy, that is a very, very difficult question. I know more and more Americans are simply unable to retire, and a significant portion of what is being called the 86 million invisible unemployed in the United States are people who are of retirement age, but because their 401ks have declined and because Social Security is in a decline, they're trying to find work to supplement the rising cost of living, and they're not really having much luck. I know that when you're dealing in metals, you want to take physical possession because we know that a lot of these gold and silver brokerages that are dealing in paper promissory notes and contracts, they're oversubscribing their actual gold and silver reserves. They're running the gold and silver trade the way banks handle their cash position. When you go to your bank and you put your money into the bank account, the bank doesn't have it locked up in a vault in the back. The bank only keeps on hand as much cash as they think would reasonably be called for during the course of the day's business, and the rest of that money, of course, is turned over and used and leveraged for lending. So most of these gold and silver brokerages, they have enough gold and silver on hand to meet any reasonable requests for the physical metal during the course of their normal business. But if there were to be a run, obviously not everybody's going to get their money back. So at this point, with things so fragile, LIBOR scandal is all over the place. Europe is talking, they're already talking about exactly how they're going to break up the Eurozone. If you want to invest in silver and gold, you really should have the physical metal in your hand, because paper with impressive looking numbers on the bottom of it, that's ultimately all it's really going to be. Whether you're holding some kind of gold contract, futures contract, whether you're holding a stock broker's report, the stock market is hideously overvalued. The first people who get out of that will get their money. Everybody else is going to be left with those papers with impressive looking numbers. And it is a time when you need to understand that the entire financial system, through greed, has corrupted itself. Nobody wants to admit they messed up. Nobody wants to admit that they have been engaging in fraud. But it is really a very, very untrustworthy system right now. And so if you have the kind of money it takes to be putting something aside, obviously you want to keep a little cash around in case there's a social disruption. But if you have any surplus, again, silver and gold. And it's not an investment because it doesn't provide jobs or create businesses or anything. It is a wealth preservation system. It's a hedge against inflation. And that's really what it is. Obviously, again, especially with gold, buy in small amounts because in the United States, if you buy too much gold at a single moment, a record is made and sent to the government, and we're already starting to hear rumbles about another gold confiscation like they did back in 1933.
The next question is from Lee. Do you think the outcome of this presidential election will make any significant difference to the economy?
I really don't think it will. Both Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are basically pandering to their donors. Their donors are predominantly from Wall Street, secondarily from Israel. And so as a result, I would say probably I don't see them making a significant difference. The only difference between the two of them is that Obama will be in his second term where he doesn't have to worry about re-election and will feel basically free to do whatever he wants. Mitt Romney will be in his first term. He'll at least be thinking every once in a while about not angering the American people so much that he can't win his second term. Other than that, I don't know. I know personally myself as a Republican, if Ron Paul's name is not on that ballot, I'm not even bothering to vote this November.
The final question is from Sean from the SGT Report. I listen to Mike's show regularly via MP3. I know he thinks the James Holmes Aurora shooting is in general just another mass distraction to keep our eyes off the real crimes against humanity. LIBOR, Wall Street, central banking, bankster fraud, war drums to attack Syria and Iran. I get it. But in his view, does he think the Aurora shooting itself exhibits all the standard red flags and anomalies that scream the event was some type of false flag operation in order to provide yet another excuse to crack down on the Second Amendment?
Yeah, there does seem to be an ongoing pattern with all of these shootings, whether they're staged or genuine. They're all being used for the same purpose. And the reason I'm reluctant to get into discussion about whether it was a false flag or not is because I'm far more concerned with how this incident is going to be used in the corporate media to persuade the American public to surrender their Second Amendment rights. We know there was a shooting on a riverboat on Detroit. That appears to be a genuine event. But again, it's everybody screaming about the guns. Interestingly enough, there was an incident that happened today up in Ohio. We have been saying for a long, long time that all of these mass shootings prove the police can never intervene in time to thwart the mass shootings, which is why we say that the public should be allowed to protect themselves and be armed. And sure enough, in Ohio, they catch a guy in a theater with a bag full of guns and knives and bullets. And they can and so now the corporate media is saying, see, the police can stop it. If we just ban all guns, all of this stuff will be very well. But I think this Ohio situation definitely was a staged incident because in all of these other mass shootings, the pattern is the same. The shooter walks in and starts shooting immediately. This guy walked into the theater with his bag with a 9mm pistol, bunch of knives, bunch of extra bullets, and he sat down at the back of the theater, which was mostly empty. That's suspicious. And then he just sat there and waited and waited and waited until the theater manager came to talk to him, and then they called the police and arrested him. Well, this is so far out of the normal pattern that it practically screams a staged public relations stunt. But again, I don't want to get tangled up in these debates about whether any one of these shootings was a false flag or not, because it almost really doesn't matter whether they're staged or whether they're just a real genuine incident that is simply being exploited. The end result is the same, the attack on the Second Amendment. And so I really am putting my focus onto what are these incidents going to be used for, rather than getting caught up in arguments about exactly what those incidents were.
Well, Mike Rivero from whatreallyhappened.com, before we leave you, any last thoughts?
The one thing I always want to tell people to do is to please speak out, share what you know, what you fear, what you think with all of your friends and coworkers and family, because every time you have the courage to speak out, you will give others around you the courage to speak out, and that is how the people reclaim control over their government.
Terrific. So where can our viewers find your work?
They can find me at whatreallyhappened.com, and from there they can find the link to my show on the Republic Broadcasting Network, which is 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday.
Okay, great. And once again, thank you for being here, Mike Rivero.
Thank you very much for having me.
For more interviews and financial insight, go to unconventionalfin.com.